Hello, humans. How are you? How are you feeling? However you are feeling in this now is absolutely perfect, needed, and necessary, and we always have a choice. Get yourself something cozy if you'd like, a nice cup of coffee or a cup of tea, and let's dive in together. Some story of me, who I am, who is Gita Rose. Many of you watching may already know me and know my story, know the ideas and messages that I present. So here's more, and many of you may be hearing me, receiving me for the first time, so thank you. Thank you for being you. Thank you for being here. So who is Gita Rose? In terms of this type of offering, service, being a reflection, a human that is experiencing this remembrance and transformation of what it means to be human. Yeah, talk story. So I was always connected to my imagination, to my ancestry, to guides, to spirits, to the elementals, to the other world. Always had that connection when I was a child. I always knew that there was something so much more and could receive messages and oftentimes had apparitions, experiences of manifestations of my ancestors, as well as Yeshua, the being that we know as Jesus. From my experience, he prefers the name of Yeshua. And perhaps at a later date, I will go into more of my sharing. But he was the first apparition I ever met when I was 3, and then I met him again when I was 6. And essentially, he told me, I am like you. You are like me. I am everyone, and everyone is me. And I asked him when I was little, I said, Jesus, do I need to read the Bible? And he said, well, first off, please call me Yeshua. And no, you do not need to read the Bible. People can explore other videos on my channel if you would like to learn more about my relationship with Yeshua. And I believe as we continue this chat, the messages will reveal themselves. So I was always connected to the other world, to spirit, to knowing our greater place within the cosmos. And at the same time, I was a performer in theater from a very early age, stretching my capacity to express myself, to expose myself, to immerse myself in other worlds and other realities. And I firmly believe that this created a foundation of expression, a way to be able to continue to raise the vibration enough of my consciousness, of my body, so as to allow more and more and more of what is our divine essence into my physical form. This is what we are all doing, and we all have many pathways to doing that. And for me, it was the spirituality of theater. This is also something that has become the main foundation of my messages, of my offerings to the world, is removing a bit of the seriousness that we have attached to all things spiritual. So I went to school in New York City. I was trained extensively and was offered a show off-Broadway that most likely would have gone to Broadway, playing Judy Garland. But in this moment, when receiving the invitation, I realized, oh, I have an oversoul. Oh, there's a quantum perspective of space. All times are here and now. We have separate connected individual incarnations that sometimes we think of as reincarnation, but also within the quantum scope of things, it's just incarnation all happening right here, right now, all in the vast volume of space. So in this moment, I then realized, oh, your line is to say no to this. You are playing a different role. An aspect of your soul has already played this part, and that would be Judy Garland. You, as Gita Rose, have a different journey, a different story to play. So I said no, and I came home then to California and began to dive deeper into health, wellness, balance, sobriety. And I started to explore traditional meditation. And then from there, I worked at a restaurant at the same time and met a friend of mine who was the first psychic clairvoyant that I ever met. And she invited me to have me receive a reading from her. And I said, oh, okay, I knew this was real all along, but like, oh, okay, let's go. So she gave me a reading and she said, oh, you have all these aliens, extraterrestrials in your space. And I said, in my space? What do you mean by this? And like aliens? She said, yes, I believe aliens are real, and so do many people. And in your space, I mean your auric field, your agreements. And in that moment, I realized, oh, of course aliens are real. And not only are aliens real, but they're also connected to us. And then about a week or so later, the same friend invited me over to her home, where then she also invited and offered me to partake in some cannabis. Prior to this, I didn't smoke weed or ingest cannabis at all, because it always shot me into these places of transcendental understandings, understandings, remembrance, speaking with God while my friends are playing video games and throwing Funyuns at each other. But this time, I said, yeah, I've got this foundation of meditation. There's something spiritual that's occurring. So yeah, let's go. So I was given the cannabis. I took one really good hit and I was shot into the stratosphere of vocal channeling. We all have the ability to channel. Anytime that we're being ourselves, anytime that we are in the flow, in the zone, we are channeling. There are an infinite amount of ways to access this channel that is our being. But sometimes we have specific agreements with different beings. And for me, this has been my journey. I've never sought any of this spiritual exploration out. It just came as a result of wanting to better know myself and to be whole in my existence, to be the best holistic version of myself. So through the years, then I began to develop the skill of channeling. I realized that, oh, I'm not the only one that this has happened to. I'm also not the only one that is directly connected to this very specific species, this very specific group of galactic ambassadors. Synchronicity began to reveal itself. I learned how to enter into this form of a channeling state without the aid of cannabis. And the being that I am connected to began to reveal herself more and more and more. So that being goes by the name of Bella. Now, full foundation. Do we need to believe that these beings are who they say they are? Absolutely not. And I would actually encourage us not to believe all of these different ideas and stories of our galactic family. It's not the point. The point is further contact with self. The point is the full remembrance of our quantum nature restored in our being. Can they aid us in that? Absolutely. But my friends, it is paradox, 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 paradox. So, Bella says that she is of what has become known as the Yael civilization, a civilization that is genetically connected to us, that is in a way an aspect of our descendants. Bella's direct branch is a group that is deeply connected to Gaia, to the imagination realms, and to the organic timeline of humanity. Now again, all of these different ideas, all of the details of who they are, where they say they come from, that really is superfluous information. It's extra information. It's the information to get us interested, to start then doing the true investigation work with curiosity, with love, with interest. Because what is it that we are remembering? From my direct experience and understanding, especially then combined with what then became the next part of my journey after connecting with the invitation of extraterrestrials and extra dimensionals, was to journey and receive the invitation from Hawaii. Bella always presented herself to me in a silhouette from the turn of the century, from around the 1890s to the early 1900s. She began to give me very specific information about who she is and essentially how she likes to dress. And I went with it at first because it reminded me of Mary Poppins. And I was like, okay, I get the archetype. I get what you're aiding in the essence of the restoration, essentially, of magic, of quantum physics, which is magic. And so I understood why she was presenting herself that way to me. But it wasn't until I began to continue to go back and forth to the Hawaiian kingdom that I really then learned the significance of that era of time, specifically 1893. Links are in the bio if people are curious to explore what I mean by the sovereign state of Aloha. That again is another topic of conversation as to why I feel and why it has been shown to me from these quantum perspectives, the understanding why it is so important to have the understanding of the story of the Hawaiian kingdom, because it is a thread that, if pulled, leads to one way that we can deeply remember and feel and know our quantum nature, the prayer of play, and the true definition of aloha. So through a series of synchronicities, I began to fully put together that this perspective that is being offered, this perspective of remembrance from the galactic cosmic perspective, is the same perspective of knowing and connection that is shared in many indigenous traditions. It's quantum. And in many ways, the translations have been lost along the way, because essentially that was our whole point of our incarnating, to fall from this space of connection, of remembrance, so that we have the experience of remembering it. And it really is extremely simple. Quite often, I observe and I question different aspects, many different aspects of our civilization and our society, but in particular, the New Age spiritual community, or even different forms of religion, different ways that we just keep talking and 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 talking about these subjects, so as to share, teach, remember, maybe perhaps in many different ways, heal ourselves. It's a big business. And we're just spiraling. It's so meta, because we're creating this entire experience to confuse ourselves, to mix around essentially a very simple geometry of creation, the fabric of creation, the mechanics of reality, the geometry that is God, the geometry of divinity is innately extremely simple. But we're such masters in this realm of density. We've taken these very simple principles and understandings of how reality functions and turned it around and inside and outside and upside and all around in on itself so that we could remember it fully. But right now, I'm very much observing in many different ways. We're remembering it, we're getting it, but we're utilizing the mechanism of our own trickery to continue to trick ourselves. Because we're growing up. because we're remembering how powerful we truly are, that there is no separation, that we are the energy of creation itself, to take these things from an intellectual knowing into a deep, profound, embodied way of being. We are perfectly in our process. But it's so simple. It's so simple. And we're so good at complicating it. That's our mastery. That's our play. Okay, so what are these principles? All right, are you ready? Are you ready? Are you ready? Did you see that? Yeah, let's go, electricity. Okay, number 1, you exist. You exist. Your existence is eternal. As a piece, a fractal of divinity, of God. There is no separation. Your existence is your belonging, your innate belonging. It's a petal on the flower of God. It is a facet on the crystal of creation. Your existence completes creation. You exist. You are eternal. You belong. Number 2, going deeper into, now that we are established, oh, I'm a piece of it. What does the piece look like? It's a fractal. Meaning, all pieces contain all parts of the whole. Creation itself, the all that is, everything, is, in this analogy, I'll use a type of crystal. A crystal with infinite facets that has the ability to twist and turn and go back in and fold in or around in itself and explore and expand itself and move. But essentially, it's one piece of geometry. It's a type of crystal with infinite facets as it continues to explore itself. So principle number 2 is everything is here and now. The one is the all, and the all are the one. It's one piece. It's one geometry, always expanding. Number 3 is so within, so without. As above, so below. Again, just really anchoring in that there is no separation between us and what we constitute as divinity or ultimate consciousness. What it is that we are experiencing is a type of projection. It's no one else's projection or simulation that we're in. It's ours. It's our own consciousness that has never actually left the realm of spirit, that has never left our true source perspective. It is fully embodied as spirit and sends its pinky, us, into the dream of physicality. And every single one of us is doing this. Every single one of us is that powerful. Every single one of us is projecting our own universe inside of us. And then therefore, it's all a reflection. So within, so without, as above, so below. But we could come into deep contrast into this experience. And I like to speak with absolute compassion because there's so much challenge occurring in our realities. That there's always at least one piece of our consciousness that is creating the reflection. Always. But because we have chosen to have these experiences of such a degree of separation, our belief systems and our modes of operating are extremely fractured. And so we then create fractured reflections. And we've chosen in many different ways to give our power to something outside of us. We've chosen in many different ways the experience of relinquishing our own power. And it's still being perpetuated in a variety of different ways. Oh, the universe says do this. No, the universe is not telling you to do anything. That's you telling you to do something. What should you do? Whatever you want. God has a plan. Well, yes, God has a plan, but also part of God's plan is for you to come into the power of knowing that you are designing that plan. We've done it so deeply because we're so masterful at wanting to be able to create the experience of the illusion so as to remember we are the ones that have created the illusion. So whatever reality we are experiencing is always moving through us. It really is a type of simulation. It is very real, most certainly. The experience is very, very, very real, but it is that, an experience. And so these are the foundations. This allows us to remember that true unity with consciousness, that true unity with self, that true unity with literally everything we are interfacing with. You exist. You are eternal. You are energy. Your existence is your belonging. You belong as a perfect, necessary facet of the face of God, the face of divinity itself. All facets are right here, right now. All versions of time, all versions of location are here in this space of your eternal consciousness. The one is the all, and the all are the one. Everything is here and now. So within, so without. It is a reflective reality. That's a sacred trinity. That is the building block. Those are the mechanisms that we are utilizing to create any and all version of experience. And once the holistic individual is utilizing that geometry, everything changes. From that space of the geometry of the Trinity, everything can change, can explore, can manifest, can transmute, transfigure. But those three basic principles, those never, ever, ever change. See? It's very simple. It's very simple. It's complex, absolutely, as it creates all of this beautiful geometry and beautiful ways of expressing of art, but it's not complicated. All the ways love can know and be love, loving love. This is, again, the cosmic quantum perspective as well as the indigenous perspective. There's no separation. But throughout many different forms of challenge, of trauma, we've forgotten how simple it is. And we get really good at remembering in one moment, and then, the next moment, we are expressing from a belief that is essentially the continuing of the illusion of not belonging, and then we forget. And so we spiral in many, many, many ways. There then is also the idea of emotional intelligence, the utilization of energy and motion. This is also ancient indigenous understandings. That is also future hybrid, extra-dimensional wisdom as well. That which we call feelings do not exist on their own. In order for an energy in motion to be defined as a specific feeling or emotion, it's passing through a belief system. We agreed to have belief systems, again, stemming from the illusion of not belonging, forgetting what our own existence even means, so as to experience. But when we are feeling energy and motion that we don't prefer, things that are very dense, it is because that energy and motion is passing through the beliefs that are stemming from the illusion of not belonging. and we are multidimensional. We are paradoxic friends. So we can feel multiple emotions, very contrasting energies, emotions at the same time. Because why? Everything is here and now. The one is the all, and the all are the one. You have, as a fractal of God, all variations of the expression. We have the aspects of us that are creating the projection, the aspects of us that know everything is a reflection of our creation. Those are the aspects of us that have never left the spirit realm, that have never left the heart and the womb of God, that know their innate belonging, that knows existence is belonging. Existence is safety. Existence is divine connection. Everything is here and now. One moment. One moment. All layers of frame and space existing right in this pinpoint of the now. And so in each and every moment, we have all of these beliefs at our disposal. The wide array of beliefs stemming from the illusion of not belonging, all the way to the reality of innate belonging. And so anytime that we are feeling a translation of a dense emotion, we'll give you an example. Excitement and anxiety is the same energy. It's just being filtered through different belief systems. The interpretation of anxiety is coming through the definitions of not belonging. The experience of excitement is coming through the definitions of belonging. And so this is a massive part of the remembrance and restoration of our true divine quantum nature is emotional intelligence. Harnessing that energy and motion and being able to speak to it in ways so as to understand, to release, to integrate the beliefs that are no longer relevant for this experience. As we expand into our ascension, we don't need these beliefs anymore. And we can approach these conversations in absolute compassion and love, the way that these extra dimensional beings would speak to us, the way that God would speak to us. What are you ready to let go of? What are you ready to remember of your true essence? And then from there, we are far more well equipped to actually be able to know our true passions, to know our desires, to continue, because yes, desire is necessary. It's attachment to how the desire is going to come about that creates suffering, but most certainly desire is necessary. But once we've developed this, all right, I understand the geometry, I understand the geometry of God. It's possible from this frame of reality. Let's do it. So yes, I understand my facet and the geometry, the fabric of creation, the mechanics of reality. I know myself as a face of God. I understand the mechanics of energy and motion so as to apply and further know thyself, to remember my actual essence, to bring and be and breathe forth the belief systems of my innate belonging. I am now poised to be able to apply, to play and apply. And this gets to the idea of the intrinsic formula. To do our absolute best to respond, to act, to be as our true selves. To continue the process of knowing self. To continue the removal of conditions, of beliefs, of limitation that are no longer needed and relevant as we expand back to our true selves. To continue the process of discernment of what really is our true joy versus our obligation, of what really is our integrity, our inspiration. We chose to forget. We chose to have forgotten what that truly feels like, what our true selves truly feel like. We chose to forget it. And the only way that we can remember it is by taking action. We need to take action as beings in this reality. We are physical beings needing to take physical action. And we are spirit. And so anything that we do in integrity, in this alignment, is spiritual. And so it's this perfect process where the continuation of the response to our true intrinsic way of being, our inspirations, taking action continues the refinement so as to know what our authenticity really feels like. And the beauty is it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if we've actually found the right thing or not. As long as we're doing our best to continue to explore and reveal ourselves, it's going to happen. It's kind of scary in like all the fun ways, right? Your best self is out to get you. It's physics. Consciousness is always seeking to understand itself. It is a friendly universe. You are friendly. You are friendly. So the idea of the intrinsic formula is we continue to respond as the true versions of us to the best of our ability, committing to the expression, having fun with it, being in a state of play as much as we can, even with all the challenge, all the contrast. Commit to your actions, to your play, to your being. Commit to the loving of your expression. And principle number 2 within this intrinsic formula is take the idea all the way through until you can explore and do and create no more, or until you have run out of the excitement. To also really make sure, again, this goes back to the continuing questioning. Why am I doing something? Who are you? What voice do you have for me stemming from my emotional intelligence? To continue to make sure that we are not keeping ourselves from our best selves for whatever reason, because it might be a little fun, comfortable in its expression. Just continue to do your best. And to continue to show up, to contribute, to act as your true self, to be fully you, without any insistence. No insistence. No assumption on what is going to happen or will happen. No insistence. Because again, this loops back to the idea of everything is here and now, so within, so without. We are going to show ourselves what we need. Absolutely. The thing that we can insist on is that we are going to surprise ourselves. Because we're that masterful. We're that good. We're that good at this experience. And again, looping back to the idea of this is a reflection of your consciousness. Again, speaking with absolute compassion, because we are that strong. We never align ourselves with any frame of reality that is not there to some degree, because we can learn from it. Reality is moving through us. More and more people are getting accustomed to the idea that reality doesn't happen to us, it happens for us. Yes, 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 yes. And, yes, and more precisely, it's happening through us. Everything is here and now. The one is the all and the all are the one. There is no separation. You are that magnificent. And so we never put ourselves in a frame of reality that isn't there to some degree for our benefit. It's just not going to happen. We're not going to see it. It's not where we are going to be. And so once we understand that physics, that mechanism, it's really easy to continue to act, to be, to show up in a way where we have no insistence, because we are making ourselves available for whatever revelations need to occur through us. It's just the physics. And then when we fully understand and are functioning from that physics, it's very easy to then apply step 4, which is to be in an integrative response regardless of what occurs. Now, this is very important. This does not mean like good vibes only. Again, that is definition, because what is a good vibe? A good vibe is something that is working towards its integration. But sometimes it's going to perhaps look like a denser emotion. Just because something is a denser emotion does not mean that it is a negative energy. So having an integrative response with whatever is arising means loving and seeing and honoring and appreciating whatever dense experience may be occurring, because again, that's the alchemical gold. That's the aspect of you that you are ready to receive so as to continue to initiate yourself, to remember yourself. Energy in motion. What beliefs are you expressing from in order to be experiencing that energy in motion in response to that frame of reality? Everything is here and now. You are a facet, a fractal, a face of God. There are also all of the integrative beliefs that you could choose to operate and express from. That's having an integrative response to whatever is occurring. And then I also just explained step 5, which is utilizing everything as the permission slip, as the offering, as the symbol, as the tool, as the vehicle into our own remembrance, into the continuing affirmation and crystallization, essentially, of our innate belonging, into our own expression and translation of the geometry of the divine. And so, that's it. That's it. We could talk and expound upon in very poetic and personal ways how we continue to remember and apply these concepts. It's absolutely individual, and there's many ways to continue to pontificate about it, and many ways that we can share so as to continue to help each other remember. But that's it. And so what would our worlds, our societies look like if each of us were brave enough to remember this? Brave enough to sit in the silence of our own rumbling power. What would our worlds look like if we truly functioned from our intellect and our intuition? Maybe it's because I've been exposed to it for so many years. The channeling started for me 13 years ago. Maybe it's because I never lost my connection to the divine, to my ancestors, to spirit. Maybe it's because I was encouraged to be in a space of theatrical expression through my childhood and adolescence, where my brain and heart and body stayed stretched so as to accommodate this quantum information. But to me, this is not complicated. To me, this all makes perfect sense. And I see so much of the spinning and the spiraling and the confusion as an example of our absolute masteries, our absolute power in being able to trick ourselves. So what would happen if we just used that power to stop the illusion? Who would we be if we allowed ourselves to simply float in the echo of our own power? And also, I provide sessions. You're welcome. Ways to be able to continue to aid and assist individuals in being their best guides for themselves. I liked sitting at like a jaunty angle, but for this, I will present my heart to you in closing. Ku'u, ku'u. I give freely. I absolutely do. And so, thank you for listening. Thank you for being you. Thank you for contributing to this experience of reality. In closing for this opening of self, who would we be? Who would we be if we allowed ourselves to remember how truly simple it is? I think there'd be a lot less talking about all this stuff and more growing food or planting trees or singing or dancing. Who would we be if we applied this? I'm ready. I'm ready. I am ready. Kupuna loa ia'u. Kupuna loa ia'u. Kupuna loa ia'u. I am available. I can never make anyone believe me. Me knowing that it is this simple comes from direct experience. Direct, mystical, divine, sober experience since childhood. And a life of applied integration. But I can never make anyone believe me. And what I know is true for me. What you know is true for you. Thank you for being you. Thank you. Thank you for being you. Have a beautiful, be you to the fullest now.